This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, boys and girls? Welcome back to Top Shelf. We're back after a couple weeks off. Actually, some news today. Of course, it's not going to be breaking news by the time you hear this, but there was actually a trade made today. Not the one I've been hoping for, but with the Wings and, surprise, surprise, the Lightning. And the jokes are already flying. The questions are already, the criticism already on Twitter, on the Flick Chat app. John was asking, is this good? Is this bad? The discussion's already been going on. We gave up a fourth-round pick, and we get Adam Erme from Tampa Bay. Thing I like about this trade, even though I don't really know much about him, but by looking at the scenario that this guy that is coming from in Tampa, he's been with Tampa his whole career. He's drafted in the second round in 2013 and played the majority of his career has been in Syracuse, been up and down a couple times. And Greg, you had the stats. What year did he make his first crack in the NHL?
The 2016-2017 season. So
a couple years ago, he got his first taste of the NHL after being drafted in 2013. So he, played 3-4 years for Syracuse full time
between the Quebec Ramparts and the Syracuse Crunch.
Yep. So basically minor leagues.
Yep. Yeah. Now, this guy was a second-round pick.
Yep.
He was number 33 in the 2013 draft.
That's a high pick.
That's a very high pick.
Guess who drafted him?
Steve Yzerman.
So somebody knows this.
Somebody knows this guy, yeah.
Right. And it just happens to be the general manager of the Detroit Red Wings. So he gave up a fourth-round pick to get this kid. This kid's 24 years old. So, again, like we talked about after the draft, for all the naysayers and all the people that are jumping online saying this is a whole move, what's he doing? Oh, my gosh, woe is us. This is terrible. What are we doing? Calm down. Pump the brakes. Look at the scenario that we have right now. We've got a 24-year-old forward who played last year let's just say last year was his first full year, almost full year. Let's say 90% of the season.
Yeah, he played 65 games last year. 65
games out of 82. 81.
7 goals, 13 assists,
okay.
20 points.
Not
40 penalty minutes.
No, let's everyone. This is what's going to happen with hockey fans because usually I'm one of them. They're going to see this. They're going to say, okay, we got a forward. A goal scorer, quote unquote, put up 7 goals and 13 assists last year. Hold on. Look at the big picture. What team was this guy playing on? This kid, first year in the NHL, basically full time, on a stacked 4-line deep roster. And he got time. He played 65 games on, I think we can all agree, that should have won, was the heavy favorite to win the Cup last year.
Mm-hmm.
St. Louis happened. It is what it is. They were out in the first round.
Actually, Columbus happened.
Whatever, yeah. Columbus out Tampa. But that being said, let's not judge this kid yet. Because for one, Steve Yzerman knows this kid better than we do. Anybody that's listening, whatever. We just don't know. So there's something, and we didn't give up a lot to get him. Yzerman drafted this kid in the second round. Would you say it was 33rd pick?
Yes.
That's a pretty high pick, so there's something there. I didn't take the time to look up and see what his minor league stats were because, let's be honest, in the minors, whatever. So 6 foot, 214-pound forward, kid's good size. Again, only 24, so he's young, and he's a forward. He's going to get time on Detroit more than he got time in Tampa. So that 7 goals that you're seeing that he put up last year could very well turn into 15 or 20 goals playing on this team as opposed to a fully stacked Stanley Cup contender. So we just have to wait and see. So it always cracks me up anytime a move is made. In this case, it's not like it was when Holland was here. First year, you got to sit back and just trust what's happening and let this stuff play out. Would I have rather seen them give an offer sheet up for Braden Point? Sure. Is it worth the 4 first-round picks you'd have to give up? Probably not. Not at this point.
They'd never have to give up 4 first-round picks, but they would have to give up quite a bit.
It's substantial.
They'd probably end up giving at least 1 pick.
If you qualify an offer sheet and then he ends up signing with them and then Tampa loses him over a scenario like that, it's going to cost more than just the money because it's going to cost you picks.
Yeah, depending on what he signs for, that's how they base that off.
Now,
yes.
it's different if that is going to put you into the finals, or if that tips the scales, like it, was that crazy year that we signed Brett Hull and all those other. That's different. You're putting all your chips in. This is not that scenario. This is another 24-year-old. This is a big picture, long term. If this works out, great. If not, to me, honestly, it feels just more like of a hole filler for the year. And actually, John made a really good point in the Flick app, which I saw on Bleacher Report and a few other Detroit Red Wing-based articles, that this could be the beginning of the end for Abdelkader, a guy that's making over $4 million that hasn't produced in the past couple years. This forward comes in. I don't know. Do you have what his salary is, what he was signed for?
I can find out.
I guarantee it's not $4.2 million for a kid that just played full-time in the NHL last year. So that could be the writing on the wall there. We can only wait to see what's going to happen. But that's on top of that, there's one glaring thing that is kind of a running joke that's been online all day today. That's all right. You don't have to look it up. The chance that we get to see him play with Bertuzzi is going to give us a Bert and Ernie line. Now, come on. The grind line was awesome. What's it say there?
$800,000 a year.
So less than $1 million a year. Okay, great. It's for all intents and purposes, it's not a huge risk. But if we get him on a line with Bertuzzi, and then we have a Bert and Ernie line, that's fantastic.
That is.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Let's talk about this trade just a few more minutes here. I'm going to throw a couple points out that I think are important.
Sure.
First of all, the Red Wings are not forward deficient. We've got some goal scorers on the team for sure, and some of them are younger, but we've got
the core is established.
Yes, it's not like we're, oh my God, who's going to score goals? This kid in the minors averaged at Quebec, he averaged about 27 goals a year. At Syracuse, he averaged about 15.
Okay.
So as he stepped up in competition, the production went down a little bit, as it should.
Sure.
We're talking about a guy who is right now a restricted free agent. All right, so if they make him an offer sheet, they're going to have to give something up. But they traded for him. They gave up a fourth-round pick. In the real world of hockey, let's discuss what a fourth-round pick is.
A gamble, at best.
If you lose your fourth-round pick, I don't think the franchise is going to fold.
Right.
So you got a guy that can come in, and you got him signed for 1 year at $800,000, which you have more than enough money. You have a guy that is now going to play for his salary next year. You got a guy that wants to be hungry, and a guy that's going to get to play. That's the top thing. If you go after Braden Point this year, you're going to give up those draft picks like you talked about. Braden Point is or is not going to sign with the Lightning. I can tell you right now, he's already made up his mind. So you get this guy who was the only other RFA on the Lightning.
The reason, not to cut you off, but the reason his name keeps coming up is he's turned down the Lightning 3 times.
Yeah, because
contracts.
Because they haven't had the money cap wise, and they've freed that up now that they got rid of Callahan, and
sure.
You're going to get rid of this guy. So, but if he's going to get what he wants, he's either going to sign with the Lightning or he's going to go talk to his buddy Stevie. And next year it's free agent. It's I sign you, I get you.
Right.
No compensation.
And here's the other side to that though thing, and it's like it was a wish is really all it was. I think in no way, under no circumstances, Braden Point play for the Wings this year.
Not this year.
It's not realistic.
I would be surprised if he left Tampa.
Now, is it realistic that he could absolutely go after and pay him next year?
Yes, it is realistic.
110%.
Especially with the money they're going to have.
It's damn near $40 million in cap space next year.
For sure.
That's insane.
For sure. But if you pay more than 4.5 or 5 for him, you're overpaying. He's a great player, but
right.
But here's the great thing that I think you get with a guy like this. You've traded for him now in pennies. You've given pesos up for this kid that's going to come into a locker room that needs somebody that's been somewhere that knows how to win. He knows how to work. Obviously, because if he didn't, he wouldn't be cracking those lineups with the Lightning.
Right.
He understands that mentality. It's just like when you have a head coach that's a complete bum that has no idea what's going on, and the door hits him on the ass on the way out, and you bring in a new guy who knows about responsibility and dedication and hard work and team focus.
Right.
You've got a guy in here that can maybe help build this locker room culture that you definitely need in pro sports.
Well, here's the other thing that, and I say this all the time, especially in our Flick chat. I've mentioned this. One of my favorite sports analogies is true here. This guy played, again, 65 games last year for the Lightning. He was in the lineup, played, saw ice time, was playing against better competition every week in practice, because let's be honest, the Lightning are years ahead of Detroit right now. Iron sharpens iron. You play against better players on a daily basis, it's going to make you better.
Yep.
So my hope is that's true here. He comes in and shines a little bit more because of what he had to go against on a daily basis in Tampa made him a better player. And they can get 20 goals. Let's not forget, as bad as the Wings were, or the whole what we're going through right now, they had 3 20-goal scorers last year. That's pretty darn good for a team that's everyone just considers to be a crap team.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of hope here. I don't poo-poo this move at all because, again, Yzerman's the general manager. Yzerman's the one that drafted this kid. He knows something. Otherwise, he would not have made the deal.
And he's been around this kid for 5 years. It's not like he drafted him and left town.
Right.
He's seen this guy. He knows what's going on with this guy. This is how I feel about this move. This isn't a move that's going to have me jumping up and down on the roof screaming Detroit Stanley Cup.
Sure.
But what this does do is say, okay, I feel like we've got a quality player.
Yeah.
I feel like we got a hockey player that's a bonus to us. He's a benefit to us.
That dreaded P word. Potential.
Well, everybody has potential.
But again, he played on that team for 65 games.
Yep.
So there's something there that if he didn't have something, he wouldn't be in the lineup.
That's right.
He'd be back down in Syracuse.
Absolutely
That's
correct.
all there is to it.
Absolutely correct.
So basically, everyone pump the brakes. Don't freak out. Back off the ledge. If you're one of those, people that are saying, "Oh, I don't know what the hell he's doing. This is crazy. This doesn't make any sense." Just back off. We've got 49 days until the regular season starts, and we've got preseason games next month. That's what I love about football, because when the NFL starts, I know that hockey's right around the corner.
The other way to think about this, too, is if they had drafted him in the 4th round this year, this kid, if they drafted him in the 4th round, would everybody be like, oh, I can't believe they picked him?
Well, yeah.
No, because it's a 4th-round draft pick.
Right. So
he works out or he doesn't. Next.
So let's see. Well, we're just going to see how that goes. So, I mean, that's pretty much all the news and that's been going on, and that just happened today, which today's Wednesday. So by the time you guys have heard this, this will be a 2-day-old discussion. So we'll just leave it at that. And there's really not that much else going on right now. So rather than going back and just drudging up, expectations and basically, it's like any other hockey fan.
The same thing we've talked about.
Reaching for stuff to talk about anymore. So I wanted to change this up a little bit and just talk about hockey in general. So you being a relatively newer, I mean, you're still a hockey fan, but not, as ingrained as a lot of us knuckleheads from Detroit are. What was your first introduction to hockey, and what drew you to the sport that made you actually interested in hockey, that made you follow it?
That's a really good question, Mike.
I know it is. That's why I came up with it. Did my homework, sir.
Hockey, obviously, growing up in Florida and living in Florida, was not a prime thing down here.
Sure.
Really didn't see hockey on TV, as everybody knows. It wasn't a national thing until probably early 90s. It started to gain a lot of prominence on ESPN because it wasn't really on NBC or anything.
Right.
It was local coverage. My first real introduction to hockey and understanding what it was and learning what it was, believe it or not, was 92 or 93 when they started to show it on NBC, and I started playing NHL 91 or 92, and I kind of got into it, and I as I watched it, I fell in love with the game. To me, hockey is the epitome of speed and strength and grace and agility and style, finesse.
Intelligence.
There's not a word that you use to describe an athlete that you don't use to describe a hockey player.
Right.
Strong, fast, elusive, vision, all of it happens. I was a Red Wings fan at the time, not because they were winning, but because my father is from Michigan.
Sure.
I still have a deep love for the Tigers and the Lions and the Red Wings and the Pistons, because before we had teams in Florida, that's who I rooted for.
Right.
Other than Florida State University, I'm a UM fan because my dad's from Michigan.
Sure.
He likes to act like he roots for that other team in Lansing, but we all know my dad's just lying when he says that.
He is.
So getting to see that stuff on ESPN and stuff when I was in the service, and I was up in North Carolina, so it was a little bit more coverage there. To get to watch that, not really understand the rules. Mm-hmm. Hockey's a little bit harder, grew up with football. It was great to watch. And then, of course, being able to watch Red Wings win those cups.
Sure.
And then hockey just, it was like the Blob. in the movie. It just kept getting bigger and bigger, and not at small steps. It just kept getting huge and huge and huge, and then it broke my heart with the strike, the year that we lost. But getting to watch that hockey like that, and then finally getting to go to a hockey game when the Lightning were established, even though they were awful for so many years,
right.
I was like, holy crap, this is just awesome. Because I don't care who you are, hockey's better in person than it is on TV.
I honestly think that live, there is no sport better to watch live than hockey.
I agree with you.
And I include football in that.
I agree with you.
Going to football, yes, I love going to Michigan games and stuff like that, and it is great. But watching a Red Wings game live in person, to me, there's nothing better than a live hockey game.
You don't understand how fast that puck moves.
Nope.
You really don't. And then I got to where we got to get Cup fever down here back in 2008, I think it was, when the Lightning won it, 2008, 2009, it was somewhere in there.
Right.
We got the Cup fever here, and then just getting to learn more about it. And now I'm fortunate enough that I get to talk about it on a podcast here. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Adam.
And Adam. And you know what? We get to talk about a team that we both like. It's not, and this is what makes me great. I know that I've said some things that people are like, oh, he's a moron. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You guys give me a chance to watch this team hardcore, because I haven't, because I'm down here.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
I'll catch on. I'll catch on. But they are. It's not like I'm getting the opportunity to talk about like the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team that I don't care about. This is a team that I do care about and enjoy and root for.
Well, you've got history with them too through family members, and that's usually how it starts.
Exactly.
And that's, to be honest with you, and my side of that is that's exactly how it happened for me. I mean, obviously, I grew up in Michigan, and within an hour's drive of Detroit. But I mean, I was in. God, it goes back to fourth grade. I mean, I'm 46, so, I mean, my grade school math's not that great, but it was a long time ago. And we had moved into a house. The realtor was a family friend. We moved into the house, and then the guy that did it, that handled all this stuff, took the family to a Red Wings game. And if you're listening to this and you remember who Ron Duguay is, you know exactly who he is because of that hair that he had. This was back way before helmets. And went to a hockey game live, and that was my first experience with hockey in general, was in fourth grade. So we go, we're watching it. It was at Joe Louis. I'm not old enough to remember the Olympia at all, but what happened at that age, obviously you're impressionable and stuff sticks with you. And the thing to me was, like you said, how fast the game was. I didn't grow up with a whole bunch of money, so I wasn't able to just go, hey, I want to play hockey now. I ended up just like almost every other kid in the neighborhood and in the whole area playing soccer, because it was very similar. You got two teams, there's a net, you got to pass this thing around.
All you need was a ball.
You just needed a ball and sometimes cleats. If you didn't have them, you had tennis shoes and jeans and whatever. At that age, at that time, you got a colored T-shirt with your team on it, and to me, it felt like it. I wasn't fortunate enough to play hockey on a league or anything like that until just within the past 7-8 years. But at the time, that was my hockey, was playing soccer. And I remember just getting instantly hooked on the Red Wings. After that one live game, and then it was watching them play. And I remember watching them when they were, I would sit in my room, literally as a kid, watching this game, trying to figure out, well, how does this guy know that he's going to go to that area? I was just enthralled with it. I couldn't get enough of it. And it was the game itself. Yes, it was the Red Wings because I grew up a Red Wings fan, but that was my introduction to the sport. And that's what basically just got me so hooked, was the speed and how do these guys know, watching a power play was like, it was mesmerizing almost to a point because of the fact that, one, the puck was getting moved around so fast. These guys are going to spots where they knew where to go. And I'd never seen anything like that before. I mean, and it was years go by, years go on. And then, the house that we had actually moved into was across the street from a lake. So naturally, first thing I wanted was a pair of skates. So spent winters playing around on the ice and figuring out how to do it. But I was young. I, used to running around kicking soccer balls and stuff. So I'm tripping over it or whatever. But I loved it because I was on the ice. So there's just something different about the sport of hockey that is, to me, is just addicting. And it's, the history, the tradition, the Stanley Cup. It's not like any other sports trophy at all. And then, of course, growing up in that area, going from the Dead Things in the 80s to Mike Ilitch buying the team to then they draft Yzerman, and then something started, and then they started winning a little bit. There was a lot of heartbreaks, a lot of losses against San Jose, blah, blah, blah. And everybody is familiar with what I'm talking about because we all went through it as hockey and as Wing fans. And it stuck. And I remember, like you said, that year the strike happened was I remember being addicted to the radio because Detroit sports talk was in its heyday. Like, I listened to Detroit sports talk all the time. Whether I was at work or whatever I was doing, I was always listening to WDFN constantly. The sports talk shows all day were all Detroit all the time. It's not like that now, sadly. But the updates, is the strike going to end? Is this going to happen? Is the season going to happen? And, whatever. But then there was the year that the strike shortened the season. So they played a shorter season. And that was the year Detroit went to the finals against New Jersey. And that was like the first real taste of like, holy crap, like, they could win this. And of course we got swept and it was brutal. But overall, I mean, basically to sum up this long drawn out story about hockey is that there's something different about it. And I think it's because you don't have all the drama that you have with the NFL. You don't have, these idiots doing stupid things that really drags the sport and the league down. The league GM, Barrett Bettman, handles that all fine on his own. But there's just something about the Red Wings and growing up with a horrible team, watching them turn good. God forbid if, the Lions ever are able to pull that off, because I remember in the summer of 97, which all of you do, when they won, that summer was absolutely amazing. There was, that parade, over 1 million people downtown, all in red and white. It was just insane. It was crazy. And, then we got 3 more cups after that. And then as Wings fans, we were completely spoiled. But it sucks what we're going through, but it really makes me like, man, we are spoiled rotten because we had it good for, so long. Yeah, there was 4 cups. There was, playoff losses, finals losses against Colorado, losses against San Jose. And, it's just, there's ups and downs, but, we had it good. And now it's rough. And then, you just hope that it ends, and at least now we're like, just get back to the playoffs so we have that exciting time of the year, because there's nothing better to me than NHL playoffs.
Well, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Maybe a lot of people on this podcast have not heard me say this. Anytime you get to watch whatever it is that you're rooting for, an actor that's up for an Oscar, or your favorite performing artist is up for a Grammy, your college football team, pro hockey team, baseball team, anytime you get to see what you're rooting for win the pinnacle, it's an amazing feeling. And it doesn't happen to everybody very often. I mean, and I'm not saying this to drive the spike in, but Detroit Lions fans, you know what I mean? You've never, I mean, when was the last time Lions fans got to see a playoff win? So to be able to say, man, I know that we kind of suck right now.
What's funny?
What's
I was
that?
there.
Nice.
Against the Dallas Cowboys. It was a Christmas present. I actually got to see them win a playoff game.
That's pretty badass. But you get to say, hey, we're kind of stuck right now, but I did get to see 4 cups. That's the type of thing that you carry with you, and you have to have faith and hope that, there's an upturn at some point. I think that we have an upturn now. That Steve Yzerman brings me faith, especially after what he did with the Lightning. The Lightning are set for like the next 5 years. He's not even their GM anymore.
Should be.
Yeah. So
just don't mess it up.
Yeah. This guy's got a plan. We've got some players. He went out and addressed some things. So be happy that you have a team. I mean, there's a lot of places that used to have a team that don't even have a team anymore.
Right.
In multiple sports. So that's a good thing. Having talked about that, I got a couple questions I want to ask you.
Shoot.
We haven't talked about it, but you and I were both absolutely shocked that the Florida Panthers drafted Spencer Knight at 12th, I think, and then they went out and they signed Dombrowski.
Yep.
Bobrovsky.
That's why I always call him Bob, because it's a tough name to say.
To a 7-year contract.
Yep.
Why would you go after someone in the top 15 picks to relegate him to a farm system?
No idea.
Do you think he's trade bait?
No. I honestly think that they could have the mentality that Detroit unfortunately has had for so long, and that's you draft him high and you just develop him in the farm system for the next few years and get all you can out of Bobrovsky, and then maybe they trade him when he's ready. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It didn't make any sense to me. That would legitimately be, like having drafting a quarterback and then signing Patrick Mahomes. I don't get it.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. So to answer your question, I don't know.
Fair enough.
Because it makes zero sense.
Who is the biggest newcomer threat to knock off the Blues this year? Who's a team that people aren't saying? Obviously, people can say, well, Tampa is favored, or people can say Boston, whatever. Who's the team?
You have to take the year in, year out favorites out of that discussion.
Agreed.
Tampa and Boston, yes, should be right back there this year. I mean, you have to remove them from there. Honestly, after seeing what Columbus did last year, you have to look at Columbus. Can they build on that?
If they got to be replaced, Bob.
I mean, they do. You're right, but that team was pretty damn good.
They were good.
The Vegas Knights, granted they didn't make it as far as they did the year before last year, but that's still a pretty solid team, top to bottom.
T to B, top to bottom.
Top to B, T to B. San Jose is another team that just seems like they're stacked every year, and for whatever reason, they just can't turn the corner.
They did a lot better last year than they have. They made it. Didn't they make it to the finals last year?
Yeah,
conference finals.
They're just another one of those teams that seem like they make it far every year, and they just can never get over the hump like it felt like Detroit did for so many years before '97.
Right.
That's tough. I mean, outside of those,
is Chicago a major player again this year?
I mean, if Bettman has anything to do about it, they will be. Not to dig up any old wounds, but, what kind of
blood money for the number 3 pick.
Yeah, blood money for Chicago. I mean, you almost have to say yes that they will almost have some sort of rebound this year. I mean, they're just too good top to bottom. I mean, they still have Kane and Taves. So, we'll see. You have to put Pittsburgh right back up there.
They just like the Lightning never should have lost in the first round last year.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I wasn't upset about it.
It did not lose any sleep.
At all.
Anytime you watch Cindy lose in the first round, it just makes me happy. But, outside of that, that's the thing about the NHL, man, is if just make it in the playoffs. If you're an 8 seed, anything can happen. Just get in the playoffs, and you can do some damage.
Okay, last question.
Go.
What is the number one thing that has to happen this year for the Red Wings to make the playoffs?
Consistency. They have to have better defensive play consistently. They need to put together win streaks, and they need to solve their problem in net, which means consistency. You can't have. I mean, as it stands right now, let's just say Jimmy Howard's going to be he's going to be the starter. He's your number one goalie. He has to be.
You're right. He does have to be.
So he has to be consistent. He has to have strings of good games. Not great. He doesn't have to be fantastic. He doesn't have to, pitch shutout after shutout, but he's got to have a goals against average or, a save percentage of, 90, 91% or more, consistently. You're going to have bad nights every now and then. You're going to have, if Pickard gets the second, the backup spot, he's going to have to play, and hopefully you hope whoever the backup is plays good enough to push Howard to be even better. It has to be consistency. That's the one thing. Defense is obvious. They have to fix their defense. They just have to put some strings of games together that are consistent with good play consistently.
Now that you've said what they needed,
yep.
Pull your heart out of the situation here and use your head.
I can't.
Does that happen?
I don't know. Put it this way. I'm hopeful that it'll happen. I don't have that much faith in Blashill as the head coach. I hope I'm wrong. I don't see that happening this year. Next year, I think, is the year that everyone should be really, really looking forward to. And look, this is what I do every year. I order the center ice package every year because I have to, because we're in Florida. It's not like it was when I was at home and all I had to do was turn on Fox Sports every night and I got a Wings game. The past couple years, I've done the center ice package with one goal in mind. I just get to watch Red Wings hockey all year. I'm not expecting cups. I'm realistic. Do I want it to happen? Sure, of course I do. We all do. I just sit back and I enjoy the season and hope that they play well. This year's no different, except the expectation may be a little bit higher that they do play better. I know we talked about it with Adam a few weeks back. I just want to see them play better and make a little bit of noise and be like, oh, wow, look what Detroit's putting together. I'm not expecting that this year, but I'm hopeful, if that answers your question.
That's what I'd like to see. I mean, I I feel we talked about it. The back end was weak. They've addressed the back end.
Yep.
Let's hope that gives us 12 or 14 more points. Let's hope that when March rolls around, there's still a reason to watch. That's what I'd like to see.
And I'm that nerd that's going to watch no matter what because but by the time March rolls around, I'm thinking, well, at least I've got a month and a half left of games to watch. But I hope the bar is a little bit higher this year.
Well, that's what I mean. That when March turns on March, hey, if we win this tonight, we got a good chance of coming in 6th or 8th or something. Only got 5 games left.
Yeah, I agree. So, if everything plays out the way that it sits with the talent they have in front of us, I know there's still some time left before the season starts, and they could pull off a move or two in free agency. I know there's not much room. I mean, just over $4 million. Let's be honest, that's not a lot. But you can go out and find a bargain player. I mean, for God's sakes, the Lightning just signed Shattenkirk for less than $2 million for the year. That was a tough one to swallow. But, again, I understand it. It's probably a rental. Who knows? He may have a big year this year, and then he gets another big contract after that. It was hard for me to see that for what they signed him for, knowing that we're sitting on $4+ million. But at the same time, when you, like you just said, you take your heart out of it, and you look at it with your head, we've got a pool-size depth of talent right now on defense.
Yes.
Hopefully. I'm hoping that it's talent.
Yes.
It's just if you bring him in, if you bring Shattenkirk in, you're taking a spot away from one of those young guys that hopefully can develop and be one of those long-term players that's on this team for a while rather than bringing in a one-year rental, eat up a spot, another guy stuck in the minors, has that less time to develop. So I get it. I wasn't upset about it once I thought about it, but at first I'm like, God damn it, less than $2 million? An applicator's making more than $4 million?
Yeah.
But I was like, but I get it. So
There you go.
That's my answer.
All right. You know what? I think that's a pretty decent answer.
It's all right.
I'm going to let it slide.
I'll take it.
All right.
That'll work for me. That's all we got left. We got 49 days until the opening season starts. We're going to have preseason games here in the next. This is what this is mid-August.
September 15th is the first game.
So let's just say we've got a month left.
Basically, because today's the 14th.
Oh yeah, so we've got about a month left, and then we're in. And I know what everyone says about preseason. This isn't the NFL. To me, these preseason games are very important to watch. This is when you're going to get your first taste to look and see how these kids play and what kind of anticipation we're going to have for the season. It's not the end-all, be-all, but you should, if you're a Wings fan, you should be watching these preseason games.
I will say this. I do enjoy watching preseason hockey more than preseason football because I love watching the fact that you've got, you don't see the stars like Stamkos and McDavid play a lot because we know that. But I like to see all the different lines that you can get and the combinations. And you get to see these guys actually out there trying to play. It's not just like, well, coach, I'm going to go catch this one ball and then I'm going to take the rest of the game off. I like the intensity that preseason hockey brings, even though it's not regular season intensity.
Because you have legitimate spots on the team at stake. And granted, there's only 4 NFL preseason games, but let's be honest. By week 2, they know who's going to make the team and who's not. There may be a couple bubble practice team players that are fighting for that. What we're going to see in the preseason for the Red Wings is you're going to see how these kids play. Are these kids like Veleno going to step up, and Rasmussen? Are they going to push to actually be full-time players on the NHL roster? It means more, and that's why with this preseason, more than probably any preseason in the past, I'm going to watch every game because it's going to mean something. It's going to be important. You're going to get your first taste of how these new players look.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm sticking with that.
You should.
For sure. So that's all we got this week. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Who knows? Well, there might be a move or two made. Probably not. But we'll be that much closer to the preseason starting.
I agree.
Right?
All right. Thanks very much for listening.
Thanks, guys. And also, don't forget.
Yep.
Go ahead. You do it. You do it.
Why don't you let your angelic tones take us home?
I've talked enough. You go ahead.
Guys, we do have a regular podcast, Top 5 for Fighting. You can catch us on the Podomatic Network just like this one. It's just us being silly knuckleheads and talking about all kind of stuff. If you're into football podcasts at all, we do a football podcast that's part of that. We do it once a week. It's about 30, 45 minutes long, just like this. The next episode for Top 5 for Fighting is our top 5 ways that we would mess with telemarketers when they call us. So if you're looking for a nice little chuckle, Plus, there might be a couple of Ohio State shots in there as well.
A couple? I guarantee there's a couple.
Give us a listen. We think you'll enjoy it. Adam and John, again, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, and if you guys listen and haven't done it already, I know John talks about it a lot. It's one of the sponsors for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network is the Flick app for Flick Chat. It is a blast, and I know that like when we're watching wrestling,
I don't even have to watch wrestling. I get everything through you guys updating it.
Yeah,
it's hysterical.
This app is, and Adam described it best, it's like a modern-day AOL chat room, except it's on your phone, and you can keep track, and, football, wrestling, no matter what's going on, whatever the event is, we're on there, and we are slinging talk left and right. And, when stuff happens and stuff breaks, I know John jumped in with a question about the trade today, and it's just a good way to stay informed with other fans, and it's a lot of fun. So please check it out.
Yeah, John, don't be mad at me. I was just kidding.
He really wasn't.
Have a great week, guys.
Thanks, guys. Go Wings.